Little blue people with tails who don't wear any shirts. Yep, I'm talking about the Smurfs. Oh man, oh the Smurfs. Oh gosh, where do I begin? It must have been back in 1981 or 1982 when I first saw the Smurfs. I think it was like a Saturday morning or maybe even a Saturday afternoon, and I just started watching television, and on came this extremely memorable song.
Smurf along with me. Simple as can be.
Next time you're being blue, just let us smile.
I hate smiles.
Happy things will come to you.
So Smurf yourself a grin.
Oh, the Smurfs was a really fun cartoon, I really gotta tell you. Basically, in a nutshell, it involves these tiny little humanoid creatures who, although they look sort of like people, they are definitely not human. They stand only about, I'd say, maybe a few inches at the most in terms of height. They're all blue. They all have tails. They don't wear any other clothing except for their shorts and their hats. Now, in any normal circumstances, if you look at one Smurf compared to another, you really wouldn't be able to tell them apart. They literally almost look exactly identical. The only way you can really tell them apart is by certain features that some Smurfs actually have on their bodies, or in some cases, actually in most cases, they wear different types of clothing. Some might wear a feather in their cap, some might have a chef's hat, some might wear glasses. And it's these little traits, these little identifying markers that actually tell you exactly who they are. And as a matter of fact, their actual names are referred to their speciality inside the actual village that they live in. The idea is that each individual Smurf has a very unique skill set, and they're the only ones who really do that kind of thing.
Watch where you're steering, Painter.
Who cares about the steering? I am planting the masterpiece. You steer.
The very first episode I saw, at least in my experience, was the creation of Smurfette.
This magical lump of blue clay will become the first female Smurf. A beautiful but evil Smurf to lead all the others straight to me.
Once Gargamel makes Smurfette, she literally is the only, I suppose you could say, female Smurf in the entire village. Who really knows if Smurfs have any other genders? The concept of Smurfs, if you will, is that they're just a group of creatures who each individuals have specific roles in the entire village. But when Smurfette shows up, all of a sudden, now there's an actual different gender in the entire pool.
Hey! Oh, you startled me. Who are you?
I'm a Smurf. Who are you?
I'm a Smurfette.
A Smurfette?
You know what that is?
No,
You like what you see?
I don't know.
You will.
What's even more interesting is that as soon as Smurfette shows up, she literally disrupts the status quo. She has no real function other than being a spy, for the most part. She literally is just there and spying on the actual Smurfs for Gargamel. Although she doesn't know exactly where she is in the forest, and she can't tell Gargamel exactly where they are. So at least in that, the Smurfs are able to keep their secret. But after a time, Smurfette still is able to disrupt things quite easily.
Yoo-hoo!
Ouch! Oops, sorry, Brainy. I'm sorry.
Not half as sorry as you're going to be, and you can blame it on her.
Now, as all evil plots are usually defunct, Gargamel eventually is betrayed by Smurfette, and she wants to become a real Smurf. So, Papa Smurf, realizing exactly what's happened, that Smurfette is a creation of Gargamel's magic, decides that he's going to use his own magic to make Smurfette into a true Smurf.
essence of Smurf root to smurf her upright. And now, with the power of all I command, Smurfette becomes Smurf, and before me stand. Fellow Smurfs, I will now introduce the new and improved Smurfette.
Hello, boy.
Hello, Smurfette.
Now you would think becoming a real Smurf would have her fit in with all the rest of the Smurfs. But as I said before, she really doesn't have any function in the village. So in reality, she just becomes somewhat of a, well, distraction, to be perfectly honest with you.
I'll get you for that.
What do you suppose got into them?
In a lot of ways, we find out later that Smurfette's true role is to actually bring a bit of beauty and a bit of different types of thinking to the way the Smurfs had been thinking before. Sometimes she'll just paint a bridge a different color, which in Papa Smurf's eyes is kind of off-wall, if you will. And sometimes she's just able to observe the beauty of nature and really appreciate exactly what the Smurfs have that probably they didn't understand before.
Yes, it's me. And I feel just like a Smurf.
You see? There's nothing you can't be if you only Smurf hard enough.
The entire Smurf village is full of Smurfs, and each one has a very specific job. As I said, they're all sort of created just for that one specific task. And let me tell you, there are quite a few of them. Now, it's probably impossible to name every single Smurf. I really don't remember that much. But from the ones I do remember, there is Papa Smurf, and he's the one pretty much in charge. He instructs all the Smurfs on what to do. There's Hefty Smurf, who is pretty much the strongest of all the Smurfs. He can always be seen lifting weights or doing some sort of exercise. There is Brainy Smurf, who, as you might guess, thinks he's the smartest of all the Smurfs, and can't help but tell everybody about it. Oh boy, there's Jokey Smurf. Let's just say he plays practical jokes on everybody, which tends to blow up in his face almost all the time. There's Clumsy Smurf. It's kind of self-explanatory. There's Greedy Smurf. Again, pretty self-explanatory. There's Smurfette, who wasn't really a Smurf at first, but now she's part of the village. Vanity Smurf, who can't help but look at himself in the mirror. Handy Smurf, who, let's be honest, if he wasn't in the village, nothing would get done. He pretty much built everything. Grouchy Smurf. He kind of reminds me of Grumpy Bear from the Care Bears. He says he's grumpy, but in reality, he's sort of just normal. Taylor Smurf. I gotta tell you, I really have to question what Taylor Smurf really does. All he pretty much would have to do is make tons and tons of pants and hats. Other than the special orders from other Smurfs. Chef Smurf. Yep, you can pretty much guess what he does. Scaredy Smurf. Yeah, you can always rely on him in a pinch. Sloppy Smurf. Again, pretty self-explanatory. Farmer Smurf. Painter Smurf. Slouchy Smurf. Snappy Smurf. Nat Smurf. Or Natural Smurf. Tracker Smurf. Harmony Smurf. Poet Smurf. Baker Smurf. Weepy Smurf. Baby Smurf. And Set Smurf, who, once again, was actually made by magic. Wow, that's a lot of Smurfs. The Smurfs back in the 80s were your typical cartoon. Each episode sort of had a moral tale to it. Whether it was be nice to each other, be careful about talking to strangers, general things which kids should be aware of as they're growing up. One episode that really stood out to me, though, was the Purple Smurf. Really, I had a hard time figuring out exactly what the moral of this story was. As far as I could tell, Papa Smurf woke up at the wrong side of the bed, started yelling at all the Smurfs. One of them pretty much got lost in the woods and got bit by a purple fly. This episode was pretty crazy. The biggest thing I can remember is every single Smurf biting every other single Smurf's tail. And as a kid, this is kind of horrifying. It really is. You see them literally opening their mouths just before taking a chomp out of a tail of another Smurf. And the only other thing you hear is, ow! And it's a big scream. And I was thinking, oh my God, what are they doing to each other? They're killing each other.
Stacy, look out! Ow!
Eventually, all the Smurfs have been turned into these nasty little purple creatures, and Papa Smurf is basically trying to figure out how to save his Smurfs. It's insane.
Ow! Oh no, all is lost. The Smurfs will be no more.
The Smurfs was created by artist Peyo, who was living in Paris. And the story goes that he created the word Smurf, well, the French word for Smurf, which I can barely pronounce, when he forgot the term for salt shaker while having dinner with a friend. The Smurfs have been around since the early 80s, but has continued throughout the years as being one of the very popular types of archetypes for kids. The stories themselves have been collected in a number of graphic novels and books, and the stories continue to be published today. As a matter of fact, the actual Smurfs have made a resurgence in recent years through the Smurf movies. Now, I've never actually seen any of the Smurf movies, but having taken a quick look at it while doing research for this show, I have to say, I might one day take a look and do a quick review.
Hello, Smurfs.
Gargamel!
Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed this look back at the Smurfs. Honestly, as a kid, I really do remember it being one of these fun little cartoons, which was just something that I watched on Saturday mornings, and really, just for the most part, was another 80s cartoon, which had connotations of what kids should and shouldn't do, as regular human beings. But I really have to remember all these quirky little episodes, which in a lot of ways just had no morals at all and just were like really, really out there. As I said, the one with the purple Smurfs was one of my favorite episodes, mainly because it was just so strange. Well, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, please do leave me a like. It really helps me out. If you have any comments or suggestions on anime, cartoons, toys, collectibles, or anything else that I'm going to review, please do that in the comment section below. And please consider subscribing, as it helps YouTube realize that I'm doing a good job and that you guys enjoy my work. Well, guys, as always, thank you very much for watching. Geek proud. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you'd like to support the channel, please see the link in the description below. I've got more videos on the way, and we'll see you at the next one. Geek proud.